Hello, everyone. My name is George, and welcome to the first episode of our TTRPG podcast called What the Bones Say. What you're currently listening to right here is our pilot episode, air quotes, so to speak, where Sage, Robert, and Cody, my co-stars on this, give a little introductory discussion to what you can expect from the future of this podcast. So what is a TTRPG? Well, according to Google, a tabletop role-playing game, typically abbreviated as TRPG or TTRPG, also known as pen and paper role-playing game, is a classification for a role-playing game, RPG, in which the participants describe their characters' actions through speech. Now, everybody on this podcast is a TTRPG veteran who has been playing different TTRPGs for a long period of time. And from that, we're all very different, and you'll get some unique perspectives and opinions. Every episode going forward should be something along the lines of what you're about to hear today. So if you enjoy this episode, please consider staying around, subscribing, or following wherever you're listening to this episode on, and enjoy the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the What the Bones Say podcast. My name is Rob, and I am joined by Sage and Cody, and we will be your hosts tonight.
And I'm Sage.
And I'm Cody.
That's not true. Those are reversed, just so you know. We're going to be talking a little bit about what our favorite D&D class is, because that's a loaded question, I'm sure.
It's true. There's many of them. Rob, how do you feel?
Oh, how I feel? Okay, putting it back on me, okay. I would like to say that Snurfneblin is my favorite class, as I recently...
do you got a problem with the Snurfniblin?
I think he's got a problem with the Snurfneblin.
They're just like generally dirty, but that's not the point. I also... I think that's, I think we're just already fundamentally misunderstanding what we mean by class. That's all.
Well,
let's all continue. Continue being wrong.
I think it depends on which edition you're talking about, because Rob is talking about old school essentials, where race and class were sometimes the same thing. And Snurfniblin was a class you could play as.
Yeah, you're like a dark gnome, and honestly, it's not that bad. It's pretty sick. Cause Sage here introduced me to advanced D&D, old school basics, essentials, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Snurfneblin, officially my favorite class, because I can just 2 and 5 chance to blend into the wall, I believe. Right.
It was a 2 and 6 chance to camouflage into any cave system. So at one point, Rob's character was just snake scouting ahead, kind of blending into the wall. And when anything hit the fan, like, he was there just like, I blend into the wall. There were skeletons, I blend into the wall. We're resting, I blend into the wall. And he was just always trying to blend into the wall. Mm-hmm. At the time, he wasn't even blending into the wall, and he's just standing there hoping they don't see him.
Yeah, straight up. I was like we went into that one room that you took us into where there was like an undead, I don't even know what to call it. Like, I want to call it a lich lord or something like that.
It was just a skeleton.
Okay, it seemed like more than that, because in my head I envisioned that there was like a center like tomb that it was in, and there were these other lessers around it,
Oh, yeah, so they were just ceremonial guards in decorated coffins.
So the center skeleton was still just a skeleton, though?
Yes. I just amped it up a little.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. My thought immediately is, was your character's name Mark Wahlberg?
What was my character? I don't remember. I named him something stupid.
It was... I feel like it was just like a sound effect you named him.
Yeah, it was probably like Skirt or like something like that.
Yes, it was. It was like Skirt.
Yeah.
It was literally just a
Skirt.
sound effect he named it. And he was just like, it's Skirt. And that was his introduction with his character.
Yeah, my name is Skirt. I'm a Snurfneblin, and I am here to kill undead things. But that's my favorite class, and I'm talking too much about it because I love the name. Sage, what is your favorite class? I know the answer to this, but
Yes.
please tell me anyways.
So mine is obviously the only class that anyone should play, Snurf Niblin.
Okay, that's what it would. That's what you need to say.
Yeah, so it's actually Human Paladin, specifically Human Paladin. I just like playing humans, but my first character I played in Dungeons and Dragons was a Human Paladin. His name was Arceus Augustine, and my dad was running a campaign for us. I think I was maybe 8 or 9, and Arceus Augustine was one of the best badass paladins I ever played. So for me, that class has always been a special place in my heart, and it's also the only class I usually play.
Okay, that's really funny that you just said that because you just ticked something in my mind. Because Paladin was the first class that I ever played. Well, actually, no, technically it was Fighter, but then I respec to Paladin because the DM gave me the opportunity to. But I changed to Paladin, and I was like, I consider it my first class. And it's funny we talk about like dumb names in my case because my first character's name was Richomi Kwan. So
From a tribe called Quest.
yeah, from a tribe called Quest. Yeah, he's canon to the D&D 5e world. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his mythos, but
I am not.
I'm down for a story though.
that's a long one because I'd like to hear your favorite class before we get into anything else.
What is my favorite class? Probably lower middle. I think it's just the most colorful.
No,
people.
that's social class. That's social class.
All right, my favorite class, Commoner. And I'm not joking.
Like Warhammer?
Yeah, or there was I think it was like D&D 3.5 in the not the NPC. That's what NPCs are. In the DMG, there was a Commoner class, and it was just terrible. And it was really fun to play in a game for 3 sessions as essentially the Kenny from South Park of that universe.
Yeah, dude. If they just renamed it to NPC, honestly,
Yeah.
I wouldn't complain.
Well, we had a friend, we were playing Warhammer, I think it was 4th edition Warhammer, and we were trying out this story, so we all did dice to see what you would get. And one of our friends got a knight with a lot of riches, really, really good. Another got a guard, well off. But one of our friends always got peasant. Every time he rolled, he got peasant. And so finally he was just like, fuck it, I'm going to be a peasant. And opening scene, he's walking down the street, gets caught in a heist, and gets shot in the leg in his artery. It starts to spew blood everywhere, and he's just like, great. So he tries to roll just to see what his next character would be, and it would be another fucking peasant. he just kept rolling peasant.
Dude, it's like the universe just like knows. It's like
perfect.
you were born to be a peasant.
But I actually think the peasant could have the most story opportunity.
I would
Yeah.
agree. I think it's a great place to start a campaign. I think with those classes from the 3.5 DMG. I don't know if they have them in the 5th ed one, but like aristocrat, the aristocrat.
Yes.
Wow. Commoner, warrior, the expert, all those kind of very mundane background classes. I thought those were really fun to start a game as.
Yeah.
3.5 didn't have backgrounds either, so it was sort of a way to start in that kind of ballpark.
Yeah. It's kind of like almost kind of wastelandy in that way, but like it's also kind of like, you know, that rags to riches sort of deal if you're like really into that. I know you like that, Sage, like the human paladin you were telling me about that.
Yes.
Like I play a lot of half elf paladins because you get like a few like, you know, racial score bonuses or whatever from that. But I can definitely see the appeal to human because it's
Yeah, I like the aspect of all these other races have awesome benefits. Elves can see in the dark. They get a bonus to the dexterity. They have long life. Dwarves are masters underground, and orcs are tough and rigid. And humans are, well, really flawed. And I feel like with the paladin class, the idea of the oath is just You are trying to embody something that is greater than yourself. If we're talking old school essentials, the oath could be to a lord, it could be to honesty and charity, it could even be towards more of a darker god if you wanted to be more of the evil paladin. It's just with 5e, the paladin, especially Oath of Devotion, feels to be you're trying to do something greater, and it's such a flawed race as human. It makes you look like you're trying to be better. And I feel like it adds a lot of character opportunity to develop.
Yeah, my favorite thing about fantasy for sure is remembering how flawed my entire civilization is. Anyone?
Nah, it's a vibe. We're all very flawed in our own ways.
I have a really good friend.
I'm perfect.
I have a really good friend, and we talk about reality and the reality that we live in. And we are convinced that we live in wacky timeline 9. Out of all the multiverses,
Why?
there's like 13 of them that are wacky, and we're on the 9th one.
Okay, why 9?
It felt right. Feels good.
Like wacky timeline 9 as in German no, or just wacky
Timeline number 9.
Number
like
9.
Love Potion number 9, but like a wacky timeline.
That's interesting.
And there's no love.
Yeah, where like pro wrestlers become presidents and governors, and
The Rock could.
I
could.
cry in my room alone at 3 a.m, being like, why? Why?
Well, we've talked about our favorite classes. I think let's try to put it on the opposite end. What is your least favorite class in Dungeons and Dragons?
May I start?
Yes.
Wizard. I'm too stupid. I can't. The idea of preparing spells is so overwhelming. Like you don't know if you're going to come across a cavern or a canyon or a mountain or a desert or a forest. You have no idea. And you got to decide all that shit in the morning. I can't do that. It's not for me.
It's like, so you just don't like deciding things.
Yeah, like what if you like, it's like, oh, I picked spider climb, but now I'm in the goddamn desert and all there is sand.
I mean, that's fair enough, honestly.
I mean, there's more than just
It's like
sand
you
in the
try to
desert.
spider climb up a sand dune it's just to get all, you're all sandy now.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've never played a wizard, so it's funny you say that, but I actually really want to play a wizard. Not for choosing spells, but, like, really for having busted-ass spells available at, like, all times, and also having, like, access to 9th level spell slots when you really get up there.
Yeah, to be fair, in 3.5, where I spent most of my D&D time growing up, wizards at higher levels, you just, you broke it. You win. You break the game.
Yes, it as a veteran DM, it sucks when a wizard gets that 9th level spell, because suddenly your story becomes, how do I salvage my campaign as soon as that 9th level spell hits? Because I can tell you many times where the 9th level spell hit, and then my main villain of the scene is suddenly a bunny rabbit, or suddenly gone from existence just because he failed the savings throw, especially a divination wizard. Because if they roll a natural 1 and you're like, I made my savings throw, they'll just sit there and go, nope, here's that die. That's a nat 1. And then you just sit there, realize the absurdity, and drink a nice hot chocolate and move on. That's all you can do.
Yeah. So, Sage, what is your least favorite class?
If we're talking standard PHB, I would have to say Ranger. And the reason I have to say Ranger for 5e is because it's too magic based for what I see Ranger in my head. Because to me, Ranger is more based off of someone who's accumulated in the wild all this knowledge and is really, really good at surviving, to the point that they are able to just have the knowledge in their head of when to attack, when to strike. 5e, they're like, oh, here are spells. And that's pretty much it. I think Ranger is a very underdeveloped class. I think it doesn't really have its own niche. Whereas in old school, I think the Ranger is incredibly valuable. So for 5e, I would say Ranger.
Yeah, I've never played old school Essentials. I want to. 3.5, the Ranger kind of got the similar short end of the stick. I feel like Ranger I feel like Ranger has been a very unappreciated class for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to me, I grew up with Lord of the Rings, so the Rangers I saw were like Aragorn and the Dunedain Rangers who guarded the north. They didn't have magical spells per se, but they had the knowledge of the land and using herbs. So when I see Ranger in my head, I just see someone who's very accustomed to the wild and able to hunt beast. So I think that, to me, was the biggest disappointment. It's not a bad class, it's just not the class I'll ever play.
You know, Matt Mercer is to DMs what Aragorn is to Rangers.
Yeah,
The unattainable ideal.
literally though. Like, see, when I think Ranger, I think, okay, what if you mixed like the naturalistic, skills and talents of the Ranger with like, say a fighter or something? Because I imagine them be like, okay, they can like definitely hold their own, but they also, have those special skills of knowing the lay of the land, what beasts are around here, where can I find sustenance? Are these berries poisonous? Shit like that. But yeah, it's very underutilized, I feel. Like, I've never seen someone play a Ranger, ever.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think like the perfect Ranger, if I was to restructure it, it would be somewhere, it's like the perfect, like where there's a triangle. At the center of it is Ranger, and at the three corners is like Fighter, Rogue, and Druid.
I'd agree with that. That sounds, because I was gonna mention Druid actually. That sounds like something else you should mesh in with it too.
Yeah, and that sounds more along the lines of Old School, because Old School had some spells with the Ranger, but the Ranger's very effective. For example, there's the feat alert that any character can get in 5e, but if you were ever surprised, the Ranger had a 5 in 6 chance, I believe, of never being surprised, being able to act on a surprise round. That's incredibly crucial, especially at first level. You're walking down the forest and suddenly arrows rain down from the trees and orcs are lunging out and you're the only one able to act. You could be the difference between life and death with the party.
Yeah.
So I think where 5e lacked was just giving that niche skill where a druid couldn't do it, or a bard couldn't do it, or a fighter couldn't do it, or a barbarian couldn't do it. And I feel like it was just a class they put in there because there was one subclass they really wanted, which was Path of the Beast.
Yeah. All right, Robert. What is your favorite, least favorite?
Least favorite.
Class?
Yeah.
Words.
Yeah, that one. Least favorite, I think. I don't know. That's hard for me because I almost want to say fighter, because it's literally like anyone can be a fighter. You know what I mean? Like a paladin can be a fighter. A barbarian can be a fighter. They can like accomplish the same things. They can deal a lot of damage. But they each have their own niche to them. Like, a paladin has like, their holy oath, and there was oath abilities that come with it. And they can use magic, which is pretty cool. And barbarian is literally like doing damage, but doing a lot of damage and going berserk. Whereas fighter, it seems like it almost wants to live up to the reputation of barbarian for being just like a murder hobo, but like it's not quite there. And I almost, like I was saying, I wonder if, if you merged in fighter and ranger and maybe a little bit of that druid, if it would be more standout-ish, I guess. It just doesn't stand out to me, and that's why.
Yeah, fighter where barbarian tries, like, it can do a few different things with being a tank and being a damage dealer, and like some very interesting abilities barbarian can have. Fighter tries really hard to just be the damage dealer, it seems, and it's just like, is it enough to differentiate it from the other big whammies? I guess it gets the most attacks, right, in 5th edition.
Yeah, it gets up to 4 attacks by 17th level.
Yeah, which that can get pretty silly.
So I actually love fighter. I actually see the exact same issues you see it in 5e, but Old School edition, I still love fighter. The thing I don't like about fighter is the name. I actually think fighter is a very terrible name, and I actually think it should be changed to warrior or because warrior just has more of that encompassing effect and it's a better name. But for me, fighter in 5e, there's only two really, in the base player's handbook, only two fully martial, no spells. The third one is Eldritch Knight. That's a spell-based fighter. The problem is I find fighter to be kind of like your Beowulf, your heroes throughout history, these people who take up arms, your mercenaries, your Bronze. Braun is a fighter, you know? These are, Jaime Lannister is a fighter subclass knight, but he's still a fighter. I find them to be more of these experts at every type of weapon, a form of martial artist, really. So to me, I find fighter to always have a place in my heart because of the traditional storytelling, but I also see the points you make with the weaknesses of fighter. It doesn't really branch well into the heavy magic base that 5e really offers to players.
Yeah. I think, too, some of the feats that 5e offers, like Great Weapon Fighter and Heavy Armor Master, I think that's what it's named. I can't remember right now, but I think if some of those maybe got integrated as choices for fighter archetypes, or like, I know in 3.5, fighters got a lot of bonus feats. I know feats work a lot differently in 5th edition. I don't think I've ever actually played a fighter in 5e, so I can't really remember. But I think maybe making some of those feats more an active part of the class and like really making their ability to use weapons in incredible ways more potent and more fleshed out.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that because, like, you know, you could definitely integrate some of those things to make it more of a unique choice because as it stands, it's like, yeah, like, you know, like you're saying, Sage, like they can be like, you know, master or not even a master, but have like versatility with like every type of weapon, you know, but at that point, like I don't know. For me, it goes back to the name too, because I'm like, oh, who's a fighter? Any class can technically be a fighter, you know, by the sense of the word. Oh, well, what if you called them a knight? Well, anyone can be knighted, right? Or what if you called them like a mercenary or something? I don't know. To me, that kind of sounds like rogue or maybe ranger, even like territory. Like I just feel like there's nothing.
Or barbarian too.
Yeah,
mercenary.
Yeah, that's it too. It's like I don't know if there's like a specifically good thing to call it. I feel like if you had more differentiating features of it, it wouldn't be so much like, oh, well, technically speaking, anyone can do that. You know what I mean? I mean, like, not everyone can do 4 attacks in one turn, but anyone can, you know, quote unquote, be a fighter, I guess.
Have you guys played Final Fantasy 12?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, my girlfriend and
that game.
she's playing it, and I'm kind of hanging out with her while she does, so I can experience it. One thing I really enjoy about that game is they have the knight, the sword and board, but they also have this thing called the Foe Breaker, which focused a lot on big weapons. And I think because Barbarian, I think, could be that, but Barbarians focus much more on tanking, I think, and being able to take damage. And I think a fighter could, like, pushing it toward the idea of a great weapon user and focusing on, like, big weapons, that could be a lot of fun, too.
Yeah, so with fighter, I would like to point out Path of the Champion and how it increases crit range of the fighter. I think as soon as you take it, your crit range is a 19 to a 20. So you have a 10% chance on every attack to have a crit. And stuff like that is what defines the fighter. It defines Path of the Champion, really helps define the fighter. Or I think they also have Remarkable Athlete, where I believe you get advantage on all athletics checks. So like, imagine you're running across a long path and there's a cliff you have to jump, and the DM says, okay, if you fail this jump, you fall to your death, and you have no chance of going back because there's a dragon chasing you. And so you make the roll. The first roll comes up at 9, but the second roll comes up at 12, and the 12 is what you needed. And I feel like that those things add to the fighter, and that's what the subclass does. But where I think it does lack is the base fighter does have a little issue where it doesn't seem to draw a lot of players. It's very much, from a DM's perspective, the class you recommend to a new player who's starting out, because it doesn't have a lot of the mechanics that a wizard has. Wizard is a very complicated class. A lot of veteran players who understand the game, who have played for many years, play wizard. And George can even nod his head. Yes, he's played wizard many times. And even still, there's so many spells in 5e now, not just like in the base game, and including homebrew, that it overwhelms a new player. So I think part of the design choice was to introduce new players with fighter, as well as allow for the subclass to really specialize it. But I just feel 5e it misses something. Old school makes the fighter a little bit more exciting because you have to roll for stats. And if you get a fighter, it's not the end-all, be-all, because you get to use everything, and you get a stronghold at first level.
That's cool.
So, it's like you automatically get a stronghold if you capture it. Like, you don't have to be 3rd level. You don't have to be 9th level. You get it. So, that in old school makes the fighter so valuable because you have a home base at first level, which is excellent.
Path of the Champion, that's a good point, too, because playing with the crit range, that's... Because no weapons that I'm aware of have a 19-20 crit range in 5th Ed, right?
No, unless it's homebrew.
So that's a good point. That one, that subclass for it really does make a big difference. And there are some other interesting ones. Nah, not another D&D podcast, season 2. One of the characters is an Echo Knight. And that's a really cool subclass where you can sort of project a shadow of yourself that can distract enemies and do attacks for you at a distance.
I hate the Echo Knight.
Well, I hate you, okay? I hate you.
I hate the Echo Knight. I'm sorry, I just stabbed you.
Echo Knight, Path of the Crit.
Oh, dude. Echo Knight drives me up a wall. As a player, it doesn't really bother me because it's broken. It is a broken class. As a DM, if you have an Echo Knight, suddenly your entire encounter becomes unbalanced because you've added another factor to it that has the same abilities as a fighter. So suddenly your Echo Knight is spawning another fighter who's just wailing on it. And even if you take out one round, the damage economy of each round has skyrocketed. Especially if your Echo Knight, I can't remember if he gets the same abilities, but it action surges. Suddenly, your fighter has an action surge, and the Echo Knight has an action surge, and you're making 4 attacks at 5th level.